Yes, hello my dear friends, welcome back. So in the previous session we have understood the overview of this chapter, the introduction part about as to what do you mean by the drafting and conveyancing, the difference between drafting and conveyancing. We also understood as to why we as a corporate executive we shall have the knowledge of drafting and conveyancing, and important technical definitions with respect to the term document, instrument and deed is what we have understood till now of chapter number 1. So moving ahead, the important topic, keep the heading, principles of drafting. Principles of drafting. Very important question for 8 mark or 4 mark, it can be asked. So now what is this concept is about? Sir, whenever you are drafting a document or a contract or whatever it is, whenever you are drafting a document, as to you being a draftsman, what are the important principles that we have to keep in mind while drafting such documents is what we are understanding here. Clear? Now understand my dear friends, say for example a question is being asked in the examination dealing with a particular case law or any particular agreement, or let me take like this. I've said you that Mr. A is giving a property on lease to Mr. B. Mr. A is leasing out a property in favor of Mr. B, and I've given you the facts of the respective case. Now sorry, I've asked you to draft a lease deed between Mr. A and Mr. B. Now if at all you compare the lease agreement that you have executed, when you compare with this agreement with some other contract or maybe a friend's, or the way I draft my respective contract, will it be same? Obviously no. The context may be the same one, but the terminology that you are going to use over there or the interpretation what you are going to make with respect to that particular contract, that will not be same, and that will differ from one person to another person. Do you agree with that? That means the way I draft a particular agreement, the way I draft a document will be different as that what you do for that particular subject matter. Same way the way you answer a question will be different with the way I answer a particular question. So same way, even with respect to the drafting of a document, that totally depends upon the skill of that particular draftsman. The drafting is nothing but an individual skill of the draftsman. So the way I think about that particular case, the way I am going to get this possible facts that to be incorporated in my respective contract, how I am going to get this particular facts from the client, how I am getting all these applicable laws, how I am creating a legal framework for this applicable facts. So all these things depends upon me. That means the respective draftsman, and that may differ from one person to another person. Clear everyone? So it is the individual skill of the draftsman. Write down. Individual skill of draftsman. Sir, individual skill of draftsman, what do you mean by that? You being a draftsman, whenever you are drafting a contract, you try to conceive or you try to understand the entire structure of the contract by getting all the applicable laws and applicable facts with the correct language to be used for your respective agreement. You please be thorough with that particular concept. You please be conceptually thorough with that particular subject matter what you are going to execute. That means you understand the basic design of that particular agreement, then compose that particular draft. So the draftsman shall conceive, that is understand the whole design of the agreement that you are going to execute. Clear? So as we are discussing about the legal documents here, as we are discussing about the legal documentation, you are going to use certain legal terms compulsory. Certain legal terms or usage of juridical language is mandatory in case of your legal documentation. The normal day-to-day language you cannot use in your legal documentation. And like what we do in your degree examinations, where if at all you don't know the answer, then what will you do? You keep on writing the paragraphs and paragraphs, right? The way you write the first point, the third point will be same but with different nomenclature, right? So this is what we have done. Even I have done that, even you have done that. So but as we are discussing now with respect to the legal documentation, you cannot follow the same approach in this type of documentation, because if at all something goes wrong, if any dispute between the parties to the case, when the parties to the contract, then they may move to the court of law, and the agreement what is been executed between the parties, that agreement will form the primary evidence to the court of law, and this may be submitted to the court of law. So whatever the terminology that you are going to use here, and the way you are going to draft these particular things, that shall be very much clear and intelligible to the layman, that shall be easily understandable to the layman, where you please divide that into paragraphs and serially number that. So write down, divide into paragraphs and serially numbered and intelligible to layman. Next, so now what's happened here? You went to a police station because what has happened? You went to a shopping mall, you parked your vehicle, you went into the shopping mall for some shopping, you came out, you came to know that you lost the vehicle. So you went to the police station, and I've given that police officer a written statement as to you lost a vehicle, and you have drafted likewise to the police officer of so and so, whereby to the police officer, and you mention likewise, sir, I started at 5 o'clock at my home through my bike. I passed through so and so junction at 5:15, and there was a red signal, and I waited for 15 seconds for that red signal. Then through a particular flyover I reached a particular shopping mall. I done the shopping, I came out and at 5:55 and I lost the vehicle. This is what you mentioned. So you said that, sir, I went to the shopping mall, I've done the shopping for the 3 hours, whatever it is, but I didn't purchase any cloth. I came out and I didn't found my vehicle. I request you to search my vehicle. Now can you draft like this? Sir, what your police officer is going to do, for how many hours you have done the shopping? What your police officer is going to do, whether you have waited for a signal over there or not, or through which particular route you have come? What is this immaterial facts? Why you are including these immaterial facts in your documentation? Rather, you missed out what is that particular bike, what is the vehicle number, what is the chassis number. You didn't mention that. At what particular point of time you parked your vehicle, and at what time you came out, you never mentioned. So whatever the documentation that you take, be it any sort of document, be it an agreement or a non-agreement forms, be whatever the document it is, there will be some material facts and immaterial facts for that particular contract or the subject matter. There will be some material facts and immaterial facts for that particular contract, and for that particular subject matter you shall only include the material fact but not immaterial fact. Just hold on. So sir, whatever the document that you take, you execute only that particular fact which is necessary for your respective contract or the respective document, and ensure that those material facts are not excluded from your documentation, and also ensure that no immaterial fact, that means no fact which is not necessary for your contract, is being included in your agreement or in your documentation. So what I'm saying here, sir, there will be certain material fact which shall not be omitted, material facts which shall not be omitted, and there shall be immaterial facts which shall not be admitted. It shall not be admitted. So nothing is to be omitted or admitted at random unless it is required for your contract, it is required for your documentation purpose, you include that, otherwise you do not include. Clear everyone? Then, sir, whatever the documentation, whatever the terms that you are using over there, whatever the clauses that you are incorporating in your respective agreement, first of all, you please understand the terms or the meanings of that particular terms what you have used, and you shall satisfy yourself that, sir, this is my respective clause that I am going to incorporate and this is fine, where I could provide or you could convey the intentions as it is in favor of someone else by looking into that particular clause. That means the draftsman has to satisfy himself as that the contract is well and good, and whenever he is using any sort of term or the technical term, he shall understand the meaning of that particular technical term. Clear everyone? So he shall satisfy himself with respect to the contents. Next, recitals, schedules. So these two will be dealing with some other topic, that is components of deed. This is not the correct time to discuss these two concepts. So recitals and schedules, that will be dealing later date. Clear everyone? So these are some principles where the draftsman has to keep in mind whenever he is drafting any particular documentation. Clear everyone? Now, apart from the principles, apart from your principles, you also have the concept of rules of drafting. Rules of drafting. So now what are these rules of drafting? First one, Fowler's 5 rules of drafting. Fowler's 5 rules of drafting. So author named Fowler, he has given certain rules with respect to a proper drafting, where he said that in order to be a draft, a direct, a simple one, a vigorous, lucid and clear, very simple, you need to follow certain rules of drafting, which has been stated as follows. First one, always prefer familiar words instead of far-fetched words. What do you mean by that, sir? Generally you come across certain people where they use that hi-fi language of English, where unless no one is able to understand that. Generally we come across that. So now say for example, you are executing likewise in your agreement, you are incorporating some technical terms, which is a very technical term, where generally we don't use that terms, and it is very hard or difficult for the people who is reading that particular contract to understand that. Then tell me whether your intention has been conveyed in favor of the other person, the reader. No. So whatever the words which we are familiar with, please prefer such familiar words in your documentation rather than going for a far-fetched word. Incoherent, confused. Incoherent is a far-fetched word, familiar is a confused term. So better you go for a confused other other than way of your incoherent. So always go for a familiar words instead of your far-fetched words in your documentation, so that the objective of your drafting, that is in conveying of your intentions, will be achieved. Second one, prefer short word to long words. Same way, single to circumlocution. Sir, short to long word. See, for example, you have the Three Idiots movie, the book. Now say for example, I'm executing a contract with this particular publication house with respect to conversion of my material, the book, into a PDF or a soft copy or whatever it is, and printing of material and sale of that. Now I'm going to use so many times the term book in my contract. Now for every time you intend to explain me or define the entire term of book over there, no, simply I'll say short word, a book. So likewise, if at all you come across such terms where you always go for a short term instead of going for a long term. Single to circumlocution, that is what I have said you. So come to a point directly. Whatever you intend to say to the other party by virtue of your contract, please come to the point directly. Please come to the point directly, where please do not repeat the clauses what you already included in your respective contract. Circumlocution means beating around the bush. That means you keep on saying the same and the same, where you'll not come to the point directly. So come to the point directly and only do not repeat the words or the clauses in your respective agreement. That is single to circumlocution. D. Concrete to abstract. Concrete to abstract. What do you mean by that? K. Sir, what do you mean by K here? If you ask me K, I'll say maybe okay. If at all you ask a commerce background fellow, he'll say 1000. If at all you ask a science background fellow, he'll say potassium. Right? So now, you being abstract in your respective contract, which is providing a doubtful meaning or a double meaning, that means the reader may derive more than one meaning for that particular term. Don't ever do that. Please be concrete as to what you intend to say and complete your respective term or the clause that you intend to convey by virtue of your contract. Production. This is what generally people do. See, very important thing, the effect of technology, the effect of our smartphones on us is such a way that even sometimes I conduct the examinations and I come across people writing in a short way as what you do in your WhatsApp languages, the textual message what you do. Please do not incorporate such habit. Very dangerous. So whatever the legal documentation that you're doing, see, this is nothing but your WhatsApp language. Please be concrete. Please don't be abstract. Whatever you intend to say, you incorporate that in a full manner. Concrete to abstract. Next, always prefer Saxon words to Roman words. See, the language what we use, the English language, is derived from the Old English language. That is nothing but your Saxon words. So whatever the language that we are using right now, that is a Saxon words. So even in your documentation purpose also, use the Saxon words rather than the Roman words. Say for example, Bayless. that is a Roman word. Bail is a Saxon word. This is what we use generally. So always go for the Saxon words instead of your Roman words. Clear? And finally, a normal one, prefer active to passive voice, because that active voice gives you a clear meaning as compared to the passive voice. Clear, everyone? These are the Fowler's 5 rules of drafting. Now what has happened here? Mr. A have done with this particular final level, and he went to articleship with his principal XY, Mr. X. Now on the first day of training, Mr. X have said that he has given particular fact and stated that, sir, you please execute a lease deed. You please execute a lease deed. The facts are as like follows, that Mr. P, the owner of a particular property which is situated at Mumbai, the property is going to be transferred as a lease. I mean, the property is going to be leased out in favor of Mr. Z for a period of 5 years with a renewal clause of further period of 3 years upon mutual consent, whereby the Mr. Z, the lessee, is going to pay certain lease rentals of rupees 10,000 on or before 7th day of succeeding month, including the electricity and the other miscellaneous expenses. If at all the lessee doesn't pay that rent amount for a consecutive 3 months, first of all, if at all you don't repay the rent amount within the due date, then you're going to be charged of 5% as an interest. And if the default continues for the consecutive 3 months, then there is a liquidated damage of 1% of the payable that the lessor will charge over the lessee. And the lease premises shall be used only for the residential purpose but not for the commercial purpose. But with the prior consent of the lessor, a property can be used either for the commercial or for the residential purpose. Now repeat the facts what I've said to you. Repeat the facts what I've said to you. Now say this is a scenario of your first day of training, where your principal have said that so and so you need to do. So you came to your seat and you started drafting. This lease deed is executed on so and so date by and between. Who was the lessor? X. No, I don't think so. Y, Z. Don't know. So you went to your respective principal again and asked him, sir, what is the name of the lessor? He said the name of the lessor. You came back again, you started drafting part. You're done with the description of your party. Then now you forgot where is actually this property situated. Again you went back to your principal and asked him second time. Okay, fine. He thought, okay, this is the first day, so he said you. Then again you came back. Then again you forgot as to for how many period of years this property has been leased out. Again you went back. So what's happening here? So rather what you can do here, when your principal have said that, sir, these are the respective facts, what you do generally, you write down in a short note as to, sir, these are my respective facts of the case. Likewise, say for example 10,000, 7th day of succeeding month, 5 years plus 3 renewal, residential only but commercial writing. So likewise you write down in a short manner, in a rough manner, as to these are my respective facts that I am going to incorporate in my respective deed. Likewise you sketch your draft in a rough manner as to what are the facts that you want to incorporate in your respective agreement that you got from your respective client. Now with this particular draft, the inputs that you have got, now you execute a draft agreement, a draft lease deed, which is yet to be finalized, So you drafted a particular lease agreement, a draft one, and you'll be submitting that to your client for his examination. If at all he intends to say, sir, any objections or any comments to be included or any modifications, then you make such modification and then finalize your final agreement Yes or no? Same way, whatever the document or drafting that you're going to do here, first of all, get all the minute facts that ought to be incorporated in your respective agreement or in the document. Please sketch your draft in a rough manner as to what are the possible facts that you are going to incorporate in your respective drafting part. Now with that particular inputs, prepare a skeleton which is not a finalized one, which is not including a flesh, only a skeleton one. You prepare with a draft form where it is not a finalized one, which will be subject to the examination on part of your client or your respective principal or who are the party it may be. And if at all you receive any objections or comments for that particular skeleton draft, then, and if intend that it has to be incorporated, then you incorporate it and finalize your respective contract. Clear, everyone? Other relevant example. Sir, you had 1956 Act, Companies Act 1956. Now in that there were some question marks with respect to certain compliances. So the lawmakers of 2013 have noted down, so these are the cases that we need to address under the new act, right? So they made a sketch as to these are my respective things that are to be addressed under the new act, keeping in view of the current scenario of the market. Now with that particular possible things, you made a bill, only a draft one, which has been submitted to all your stakeholders for their public comments. Now you have received some comments or some objections from the different people. You would have modified your respective bill and finalized that by taking into considerations of that particular modifications or any objections. Then finally you approved it and it has become an act. Same way, sir, you get all your possible inputs from your respective client. Now with that possible input, you draft a particular contract and you submit that to your client or your respective principal for their examination. And if they say about any comments, then you include it and finalize your agreement. Clear, everyone? So what is saying? The first one was follow 5 rules of drafting. Second, sketch the draft. Next, skeleton and self-appraisal. That means you prepare a rough draft and you examine whether all the points have been incorporated in that particular contract or not, or you may give that to the examination of the different individual. Sometimes, that means after self-appraisal, then you're going to finalize your contract. But sometimes, depending upon the contract, some other documents may be subject to examination for your contract. Say for example, I'm purchasing a property from you. So the sale deed is what the important matter here. This is what you're drafting. But for this particular transaction, what is the important document that you need to examine? My title deeds. I'm the owner. So my title deeds, the encumbrance certificate. So these are some documents which has to be examined, which has to be considered by the draftsman before drafting a particular contract. Or say for example, a banker is advancing certain loan to a company, for which the company will create a charge in favor of the banker. Now the banker will examine the property and he will consider the valuation report given by a professional with respect to the property, the value of the property. So before they execute a mortgage deed, they're going to examine this particular certificate, what is been given by your professional. So likewise, there may be important documents that are to be considered, or sometimes some experts will come into picture with respect to your contract. So these are also shall be considered. So what are those important documents? To be considered, and also experts' opinion. Clear everyone? And these are your rules of drafting. Rules of drafting. Clear everyone? So very important for your examination, the principles of drafting and the rules of drafting. If any questions have come, please include introduction to the concept of drafting, then write down this particular answers. Clear? So do not confuse with the term principles and the rules of drafting. Rules of drafting is different, principles of drafting are different. Clear? Yes. Can we move ahead? Can we move ahead? Yes. So let us discuss quickly from the material. So what he is saying, the general principles of drafting and conveyancing. The principles. As far as possible, the document shall be self-explanatory. The draftsman should begin by satisfying himself that he appreciates what he intends to say. The well-drafted document shall be clear to any person, intelligible to the layman, may not be perfect because it says too much or too little or is ambiguous. Sorry. Or contains one or more of the facts because it has to be applied in circumstance which the draftsman never contemplated. So this is what I've said you, sir, only that particular part which is intended to be conveyed and which is material fact only you please include, and do not include unnecessarily whatever the facts that you never intended to convey, because it provides an ambiguity in your respective agreement. Nothing is to be omitted or admitted at random. Use of juridical languages, divide into paragraphs, and with respect to schedules and the recitals that we'll be discussing the next topic. And prefer active voice to the passive voice. Then the follow 5 rules of drafting. Prefer familiar to far-fetched, concrete to abstract, single to circumlocution, short to long, Saxon to Roman, active voice to passive voice. Then sketching the draft, that is the getting all your minute facts, skeleting the draft and you self-appraise it, then attention to given to certain documents, and finally the expert's opinion. So this is what he's saying over there. Clear everyone? So we said that, sir, you being a draftsman, you need to understand each and every term or each and every meaning of the term that you have used in your respective contract or a document. So what are the guidelines? What are the guidelines with respect to the terms or the phrases that is being used in your document? So in what manner you are going to get the meaning of that terms is what the question here. Say, if at all you have used only a general term, if at all you have used a general term in your document, then you can opt for ordinary dictionary where you can get that meaning, general dictionary or the ordinary dictionary. But if at all you have used any legal term, then go for legal dictionary. Legal dictionary now. Say for example, you said contract. Is it a legal term or a general term? Legal term. Where you are going to get the meaning of contract here? Indian Contract Act, Companies Act, document. So specific act, maybe your General Laws Act, maybe your Companies Act, Information Technology Act. So likewise, so that particular act or the regulations or the rules or the explanations, so which provides a particular meaning of a term, then that is a legal dictionary. If at all there are any particular case laws, if at all you have any particular case laws where defining any term which you have used in your respective contract, then mention that or quote that case law as a footnote. Next, if at all you got any expert with respect to meaning, then quote that expert. Ultimately, the objective shall be intentions, to convey the intentions as it is to the layman or to the reader who is reading that particular contract. That means, sir, what are my intentions to convey this contract? In the same manner, by virtue of my contract, the intentions has to be conveyed in your favor. Clear, everyone? And these are certain guidelines that are for the terms or phrases that to be used in your contract. So a normal topic that was. Now we're going to see some technical terms which are very, very important for examination. Almost every attempt you can see these questions. First one, deed pool. Deed pool. Now what is this deed pool? Say first of all, let me take likewise. If at all you are residing in a rent home, if at all you are residing at a rent home where you being a tenant there, and you executed a lease deed with the landlord, and the landlord is saying that, sir, the agreement what we have executed, let me keep with this agreement with me, and there will be no copy that will be required for you. Now what we will say, you being the tenant of that property, you'll say, no sir, I require a particular copy such that even I will be having a copy with me, and I can come across if any duties or obligations that is to be exercised by me. So likewise, generally both the parties will be having a copy of that particular contract. Say for example, you have paid me the fees and I've said that, yes madam, I have written that in my material, in my book, and acknowledge that I've received the amount from you, and I'll not give any fee receipt to you. What will you say? No, I require a fee receipt, compulsory. So a copy of contract will be with you, one copy, and one copy with me, so that there will be no problem at all. That means, depending upon the contract, depending upon the contracting parties, as many parties to the contract, as many copies will be made, such that each party possesses a copy of the contract. I repeat, whatever the contract that is being executed by the partners or the contracting parties, that will be made into duplicate. A copy of the contract will be made. As many copies will be made, as many parties to your contract. Say for example, a partnership deed is executed between 5 parties, then 5 copies will be made. 5 copies will be made such that each party will possess a copy of the contract, and that concept is known as deed pool. Deed pool, where there are minimum 2 or more parties. 2 or more parties. Clear, everyone? This is deed pool. Next, deed poll. Please understand, P-O-O-L, P-O-L-L. So deed poll. What is that deed poll? Such type of deed which is being executed by only one party. Only one party. Sir, will there be any particular contract executed by only one party? Yes, it can be. Example, your power of attorney, the promissory note, the gift deed, the will, all these things are executed by only one party, and those deeds are called as deed poll, where it will be signed by only one party. Please understand the context here. Sir, by virtue of power of attorney, someone is going to draw certain benefit. By virtue of a will, some beneficiary is going to draw some benefit. By virtue of a gift, some donee is going to get a benefit, where is a property. The thing over here with respect to the deed poll, that the executant of that particular drafting, the document, is only one person who is going to sign that. The executant will be only one person. The beneficiaries can be any number it may be, depending upon your contract. I repeat, generally, the contract will be made between 2 or more parties. Do you agree? A, B, signed by A and B. This is a general form. What this deed poll will say, it will be executed by only one party. That means the executant will be only one party and he will sign that particular contract. But there may be a particular beneficiary who is going to draw certain benefit out of the contract. Clear everyone? So such type of deeds are called as deed poll, where there will be only one party. Clear everyone? Next, indenture. What is this concept called as? Now say for example, a contract has been executed. Now post execution of the contract, the contract will be teared off. As many parties to the contract, and each leaf will be given to each party. So 6 parties. So the agreement will be teared off and 6 pieces will be made, such that one piece each will be given to each of the parties to the contract, such that you can avoid the forgery. So if at all, if a person, Mr. Second party, intends to make an alteration, he cannot do, because only a part of the contract is with him and the remaining part is with some other parties. Sir, what you're talking? Yes, indenture. In order to avoid the forgery, post execution of a contract, a duplicate will be teared off, or original may be teared off, whereby the alteration of the property or the alteration of your agreement or forgery is become impossible. But please do not tear off your agreements. But we are not practicing right now this concept. We used to practice this at very long ago, ancient period, but right now we are not practicing any such kind of thing. So please do not tear off your agreements. So only for academical purpose only, please understand that indenture executed between 2 or more parties, where in order to avoid the forgery, post execution of the contract will be teared off. So as many parties to the contract, as many pieces will be made. Clear everyone? Fourth one, Sirographum. So the same concept, it's also a type of indenture. The only difference is that post execution of your contract, through a term called as sirographum or some other term, the contract will be teared off. Say for example, I have written Arun over there. Now the contract will be teared through a particular term, like a watermark, what you do. So just an advancement in the people's mind, that's it. So the same concept to avoid the forgery, and the same thing, we are not practicing this concept right now. So we are not following this procedure, so please do not. So sirographum and indenture, both the things we are not practicing right now. Clear everyone? And the last one, deed escrow. Yes, what do you mean by deed escrow? Say for example, A, B and C and D are carrying on a partnership firm, okay, or they intend to start a partnership firm rather, and likewise they've executed a partnership deed. Where it is been signed by Mr. A. Is this valid? Assuming that it is compulsory to be in writing form, or let us go for some other agreement, not compulsory, a partnership deed. It's a collaboration between A, B and C and D. So that is been signed by Mr. A. Is this valid? No. It has been signed by Mr. B. Is it? No. C? No. D? Yes. That means until and unless the last party to the contract signs, the contract, the agreement what you have executed is just a scriptum, that is just a writing which doesn't have a legality. But as soon as the last party to the contract signs that, then at that point of time it becomes effective, where it creates a legal relationship between all of the parties. See, the last party doesn't mean D in the chronology order. Say for example, it has been signed by A, D, B. So now as soon as the last party to the contracting party, that is C, signs it, then it becomes a legal document, and that concept is known as deed escrow. So until and unless the last party to the contract signs, the deed what you executed is just a mere scriptum which doesn't have any legality. Clear everyone? So these are 5 important topics for your examination for 4 mark. Deed pool, where it is executed between 2 or more parties. Deed poll, only one party who executes the contract. Indenture and xerographum. Indenture, after execution, that will be teared off as many pieces as many parties, as many pieces will be made. Xerographum, same concept, but the only difference is with respect to the term xerographum, you're going to tear it off, but you're not practicing this concept indenture and xerographum. The last one, deed escrow, where until unless the last party signs a contract, the agreement doesn't have any legal validity. Clear everyone? This is the important topics with respect to the 5 topics. Clear? Very important topic for examination. Please go through that. Can we move ahead? Now, keep the heading. Types of deeds. Types of deeds. Yes. See, I've already said you that there is no statutory definition for the term deed. So several authors have defined the term deed and they have given their own name for the concept of deed. See, technically we are not going to discuss any types here. We are not going to discuss any specific types here. Rather, we are going to see the different technical names or the nomenclatures that is being given to the deeds based upon the characteristic or the feature of that particular contract. Example, some author have said that, sir, if at all a particular deed which conveys a valid title from one person to another person, let me call that as a lawful deed. And some other person of that, if at all a deed conveys a valid title, then let us call that deed as a good deed. Now the lawful deed and good deed remain same, which is conveying a valid title. So the only nomenclature have been changed from one author to the another authors. Clear everyone? 3. Sufficient deed. The same, sir, whatever the deed that you have executed, if at all you are within the boundaries of the applicable law for your contract, then that is sufficient and we'll call that as a sufficient deed. So again it remains same, lawful deed, good deed, sufficient deed remains same. It is conveying a valid title from a property or a person in favor of another person. 4. A bit change over here, voluntary deed. Sir, if a contract or if a transfer of property is happening without a consideration, then let us call that particular deed as a voluntary deed, So that deeds where you'll not find any consideration, so those deeds are called as voluntary deeds. Then pretended deed. So without going into the technicalities of that particular deed, you pretend that this is a particular deed which is of prima facie valid. So say for example, I have submitted a deed to you. So you apprehend that, you pretend that this is a deed that has been executed between 2 parties, where you prima facie thinks that it is a valid deed. So normal concept of a deed, pretended deed. Next, sir, if any deed it is being stored for a period of 20 years, so let us call that deed as a latent deed. Say, if at all your father purchased a property way back in 1960s or 1970s, and the property deeds will be having, so as the property deeds have been stored for a period of 20 years or more, so that deed will be called as a latent deed, which is also a sufficient deed, which is also a good deed, which is also a lawful deed. The essence over here is only with respect to storage for a period of 20 years. Clear, everyone? Next, warranty deed and special warranty deed. So if at all you purchase any particular good, you'll be getting a warranty. For that, he'll be giving you a warranty card. So there is nothing but a deed which is giving you a particular right over that particular product if any damages occurs. So by virtue of purchase of property, you got that warranty. By purchase of a property, you got that warranty. Now what he is saying here, special warranty. Now say that that period have been expired. Say that period have got expired. Then what this company people generally say, sir, you please pay me an extra amount of 500, say for example, then we'll give an extended warranty of the product. So a special warranty will be given to you upon a special condition is been complied, that may be with respect to payment of an additional amount. That is a special warranty deed for which you get a special warranty once again. Clear, everyone? And these are the different types of deeds that is been provided to you. Clear, everyone? So let us quickly look into the material. See, the do's and don'ts are nothing but your principles of drafting, what we have said. See, reduce the group of words into single word. So that is what we have said, single to circumlocution. Simple verb to group of words, so short to long. Avoid roundabout construction, that is concrete. Avoid unnecessary repetitions. Write shorter terms. Express ideas in fewer terms, that is your in a brief manner. Active to passive. Choose the right word. Know exactly the meaning of the words and put yourself in the place of it and read and document, satisfy yourself about the content, interpretation and sense it carries. So this is all we have discussed in your principles of drafting. So avoid the use of same sound, that is employer and employee. See, this is with respect to your pleadings. Whenever you are going to argue with any particular court, please try to avoid usage of such terms which gives a same meaning or which provides a particular confusion. When any clause in the document is numbered, or it is convenient to refer anyone, so try to serially number that. And negativity in the successive phrases shall be carefully employed. See, generally we come across no party shall so and so you'll mention. So this no is what your negative terms and conditions here. So please include such type of clauses in a very utmost care, because no party shall not, if at all you mention likewise, then that has become a positive terms and condition. You can say parties shall not so and so, or no party shall, continue with that your terms. So wherever you are going to use any negatives or negativity in your successive phrases, please try to incorporate with utmost care. A draftsman should avoid the use of words less than or more than. Instead he can use not exceeding and also either and either or both, or express the meaning in two other clauses. Sometimes there may be a possibility where both the conditions may happen, so likewise you have to mention either or both. And this is where you come across a concept of where you dig into the topics where you may do certain mistakes, and or any, might, no, now, appointed, applied, present, past. And so these are some small minute grammatical mistakes that you do, where try to avoid that. This is what he's saying there. Then guidelines. For the general words, go to the ordinary dictionary. For the legal term, go to the legal dictionary. If any case law has been provided, quote that in as a reference. Then always use the technical terms where it is required, and by getting the deriving of the technical and special meaning. And the object is to convey the intention of the executor to the readers in the same sense as he wishes to do. And recognize words of legal eminent experts. So experts' opinion you can take into account. Clear everyone? Interpretation will deal after some time. So document we have understood. Yes. Deed pool. So a deed between two or more parties where as many copies are made as there are parties, so that each party may be in possession of a copy. This arrangement is known as deed pool. Deed pool, a deed made and executed by a single party. That is, example, power of attorney is called as a deed poll, because in olden days it was polled or cut level at the top. It had a polled or a cut edge. So after the execution of your contract, the document used to be tear likewise. So this part we used to tear it off so that you can avoid the forgery. Indenture. So indenture are those deeds in which there are two or more parties. It was written in a duplicate upon which one piece of parchment and two parts were severed so as to leave an intended edge or very edge, forging being then rendered very difficult. Indentures were so called as at one time they are intended or cut with an uneven edge at the top. In olden days, the practice was to make as many copies of parts as they were called of the instruments as there were parties to it, which parts taken together formed the deed, and to engross all of them of the same skin of the parchment. Sir, if at all you want to make any alteration for that particular deed, so each party bring your own leaf and will adjoin that and will ensure that this is a parchment what we have made. Then finally you're going to alter your respective contract. We are not doing any the smuggling the smuggling part what you do generally see in the movies. You'll affix that, you'll adjoin that and see whether he's a correct person or not. Same way we used to do that in the earlier times. Sirographum, the same term. This was another type of indenture in olden days. The word sirographum was written between two or more copies of the document, and the parchment was cut in the jagged line through this word. So through that particular term, you're going to tear it off. The idea was that the difficulty of so cutting another piece of parchment that it would fit exactly into this cutting and writing constituted a safeguard against the fraudulent substitutions. So it is very difficult for another person to write it again and tear it off the same paper in the same design through that particular term, whereby forgery has become very difficult. And again I am repeating, both the things you are not practicing, both indenture and sirographum. And the last one, deed escrow. A deed signed by one party will be delivered to the another as an escrow, for it is not a perfect deed. It is only a mere writing, a scriptum, unless signed by all the parties and dated when the last party signs it. The deed operates from the date it is last signed. Escrow means a simple writing, not to become a deed of the express to be bound thereby until some conditions have been performed. So until and as the last party to your contract signs it, it is just a mere scriptum which doesn't have any legality. Clear everyone? So this is what are the important technical terms. Then various kinds of deed: good and sufficient, inclusive deed. So all these things conveys a valid title. Latent, that is for a 20 years time period. Lawful deed, again remains same. Pretended deed, which is apparently a prima facie valid one. Voluntary one without consideration, without warranty, and special warranty is with respect to the warranty of a product. Clear everyone? So even this is important, sir. He'll just ask you what do you mean by deed, and discuss the various kinds of deeds. So first of all, you give an introduction to the term deed. Then you need to remember all these types names. He'll not give the name over there. Clear everyone? And please try to remember one important thing. See, whenever you are drafting any particular answer, whenever you answering a particular question, please try to give an introduction to the topic there. Then only move to the context. If at all he has asked with respect to what are the different kinds of deed, so first of all you discuss what do you mean by deed, then move to the different kinds of deeds. Clear everyone? So we're left with two topics now of your chapter, that is interpretation of document, which is very important for 8 marks, and the components of deeds. Clear everyone?